Welcome back to another episode of From Blended to Besties.
Oh.
We always do this. I thought you were going to say it's episode.
It's episode 5.
Yeah.
I think I did in the last podcast.
I can't remember
trade
anymore.
off. It's episode 5. My nose is running. I love that. Also, for those of you on YouTube, if my hair looks oily, it is. Don't look at it.
I can't with you. You called yourself out. That's on her.
Oh, I'm just really insecure about it right now. God, my nose is running. I love that.
Go catch it. Look at me with the jokes. I love it for me.
Man, we're gonna get it when this camera turns off. Anyway, so I think today we're gonna talk about we get asked for parenting tips and co-parenting advice
All the time.
tips all the time. So we compiled them down to our top 5.
6.
6. And I think it was supposed to be a top 5, but these are just there was just some that we just couldn't cut out.
Like main points,
Main points. Things that, advice we could give if we had to give of course there's a lot more than this, but just to compile it down to the main
The most important ones, yeah. To have some sort of healthy co-parenting relationship. I mean, on a spectrum from just a minimum being cordial to where we are right now. So
somewhere on that spectrum. So it's Valentine's Day week. Well, the week before.
Yes.
Leading up to it. Valentine's Day is on Monday.
Yes, this will be played the day after Valentine's Day.
Oh, post Valentine's Day.
Yes, post Valentine's Day.
So what are you up to? You got some plans this week.
I will be in Miami. So Mike has a conference in Miami and I'm going along because I'm just going to eat the food in Miami.
I love that for you. Jealous.
He has his list of like his talking points for the conference and I'm like, I want to go to the New York Cafe. I want to go here. I'm excited. I haven't been to Miami since we all went, ironically, to the Metallica
concert.
Yeah, that's the last time.
Make sure you post on stories so we can all travel along with you.
I will.
And if you guys are watching this, you probably already saw it on our stories. If you're not following us on Instagram, you should be. Momsoftampa.
Yes.
I will be watching her dogs.
I love that. It's a luxury life for me.
I'll be watching the dogs, so I'll be home. And then Saturday we have a birthday party that we are all going to.
Yes.
And then Sunday, Tiffany and I are meeting up with a couple of our followers, people who follow us, and doing a Valentine's Day.
We are, and if you guys don't know what a Valentine's Day is, it's definitely a made-up holiday from Park and Rec. It's women celebrating women. So I have always loved the idea of it and the fact that we're trying to make it come to life in Tampa Bay, even if it's just a small thing. I'm super excited about.
Yes.
Yeah.
We did it last year, just me and Tiffany, but we had the idea this year to get up with some moms or just people, not even moms, they didn't have to be moms, just some girls who follow us.
Yeah.
To go out and do a brunch.
We need to make this more of a thing because trying to find restaurants who are participating, they're like,
I know.
yeah, we don't know.
We don't know what that is.
Like, it
And
needs to be a thing. Like, come on, just like a girl's day out. Like, this is technically a holiday. So they just need to make it a thing. So hopefully Tampa Bay will see our photos and be like, damn, we need to start doing that.
We could have hopped on that and we didn't.
We could have been the restaurant of choice if we would have actually had Valentine's Day instead of the damn Super Bowl.
Yep. Oh yeah, and it is on the Super Bowl also. So. Whoops, that's probably why. But I mean, even last year there weren't a bunch of restaurants doing it. So
yeah,
we kind of made our own Valentine's Day.
We did.
So we have some points here written down. So if you're watching us on YouTube and we're looking down, I wanted to make sure we were prepared. We are kind of on a time crunch today because the kids are coming home. My husband is going to get them right now.
Yes.
And then we're going to be on Amazon Live doing our Valentine's Day stuff. So if you're not following us on Amazon, you should be.
Yes, follow us on Amazon. The link for our Amazon storefront is on momsoftampa.com. We're trying to get to 2,000 followers to do an Amazon gift card giveaway. So if you aren't following us and you love Amazon, get on that.
Yep. We all shop from Amazon.
I know.
Go ahead and give us a follow. I just found out that yesterday that Travis wasn't following us on Amazon.
Really?
Yep. I said, if I look over there and there is not a following button, we're getting divorced. He was like,
that's hysterical. It's okay. I also wasn't following our own Amazon account, and when I went on it yesterday to see like what products are selling, I was like, I should probably click on this button and follow. But now I am, so we're good.
Yep. All right, so to jump in, again, we have 6 points. And then there's like little branches off the points that we'll elaborate on. But just to keep us on somewhat of a tight schedule, we will be going down the list.
Yes.
These are in no particular order. Number 1, we're going to go with don't compare yourself to either the stepmom or the mom.
And vice versa, don't let the other person tell you how to compare yourselves.
Yes. Us being on social media, like, we get compared so much, sometimes to the point of tears, and I don't know, like, I think that there's just so much to unpack with the whole, like, mothering styles. Like, don't compare, you know, the way you look, or, you know, people always want to say he has a type, and it, you know.
Or how they're doing things, being like, would she do it this way, or would she do it that way? It's like, don't think of it that way.
Yeah, your kid already has, you know, a mom. They already have one of you, like, and that's good enough. Like, they don't need you to be acting like their bio mom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've already got one. They need you to be you and authentically you and just have you perfectly the way that you are.
And don't second guess yourself. I think it's also a really big one. I know I used to say all the time, like, is this what Megan would do? Like, am I doing this right? Is this what a mom would do? Like, not realizing, like when Michael was turning 5 or 6, like, you were going through the same thing for the first time, just like I was. So why would I second guess myself? Like, is this how you would do? I'm like, you don't know just as much as I don't know. Like, we don't know what we're doing. So just be confident in what you're doing and realizing that there is no mom handbook. So just do what you think is best. And we get people all the time who message us saying, you know, bio mom won't let me do this, or, you know, stepmom says I should do this. Like, don't let someone else's idea of what you should do or you should be get into your head. Like, ignore that. You are going to parent the way you want to. You're going to be the mom or the stepmom that you want to be. Stop letting someone else's ideas or perception or view change anything or make you second guess yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I know definitely in the beginning I struggled with, you know, back before I knew, you know, how you were. Like, am I the strict mom? Is she the fun mom? You know what I mean? And it really did. Like, if I thought I was being too hard, I was like, well, I don't want to come off as like the mean mom. And he goes over there and he has his nice mom. So
I think no one wants to do that too, because sometimes I'm always so scared and I'm like, should I like give in and like not be as strict so that I don't look as a strict mom? But at the same time, I'm just like, oh, like, I don't want to kill. Like, he shouldn't have like super fun parents all the time. Like, someone needs to be strict, and that stresses me out.
So yeah, don't compare, whether it be your looks. You know, you guys are completely 2 different women, okay? 2 different personalities. No one wants to hang out with themselves. You know what I mean? Don't try to. I know people compare us all
I
the
wouldn't
time.
mind hanging out with myself. That's fine.
You know what? I think with you. I just see it so many, you know, they just want to compare us and say that we look alike and we are exactly the same. And you're like, oh, she's turning into you. She's taking your personality. She's taking your style. She's taking all this. And it's like, don't feel like, you know, you have to be the other mom or dress like the other mom, act like the other mom, especially if you guys are friends like we are. You know what I mean? Like, I like you, and I like hanging out with people who are different because it opens my eyes to new things.
Yeah.
I don't want to hang out with someone who is taking my personality and just trying to be like me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you gotta love yourself. You are who you are. You know, we are completely different personality. Well, not completely different. We do have a lot in common, but
we're 2 completely different people.
Yeah. Body types, you know, I'll never look like her. She'll never look like me. And that's great. You know what I mean? Like, we are who we are. It's great. Do not compare mothering styles. You know, diversity is great, especially, I keep saying great. Great.
They're great.
Diversity is great. And even when, like, we say it all the time, like, because there's 4 of us, we each bring a little bit something, a little something different to the table. And I think it's a beautiful thing, you know?
Yes, that's super important. And just like with the whole vice versa, like, I'm trying to think of a specific example with all these things that we get on Instagram.
Well, don't let them tell you either. Like, you need to be more like the mom, or even have me, like, let's say, like, I was like, well, you know, Tiffany needs to be more nurturing like me. You
or
know,
you do
like,
something a certain way and you're like, well, I do it this way. Like, that's great that you do it, but like, if I'm gonna do it a different way, like I'm gonna do it a different way. And I see all the time when people say like, it drives me insane when they're like, well, bio mom said this or stepmom said this. I'm like, and like, okay, like anyone can tell you anyone. Like there's randoms on internet telling people how to parent their own kids. Like it's irrelevant. Just do you, and it doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself, because once you start listening and being like, maybe I should do stuff, then you are going to get critiqued and being like, well, you're not doing it exactly this way, or I'm doing it better, or stuff like that. Like don't even put yourself in that. It's not worth it. You don't have to have, just because there's a bio mom in one house and a stepmom in the other house, doesn't mean that you guys have to do exactly the same things to have a positive co-parenting relationship.
Yep, and being open to other parenting styles that may not be the way you would do it. Just because it's different or not the way that you would do it doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah, leave it alone.
Let people do the way that they want to do it. I mean, if they're like beating your child or something, I mean, that's an obvious no.
Yeah.
But, you know, if...
Girl, you're going to open a can of
I
worms
know,
with that
oh my God, that's a whole different podcast, okay, but...
So be reasonable, have common sense.
They don't have to do exactly everything like you do, and you're gonna have to, you know, which brings us to our next point, is pick your battles.
Yes.
This is an extreme one that Mike and I had to. This was probably our biggest hill that we had to climb in our co-parenting, is learning to pick your battles, and not everything needs to be a battle. Holding your tongue for the greater good of the co-parenting group falls under that as well. Not everything needs to be discussed. You know, sometimes it's okay to just let things go.
Yeah.
And yeah, picking your battles. Like, sometimes it's not worth the argument and messing up the good thing that you guys may have because you're upset that, you know.
And I think that's a big part that people miss when they see us co-parenting and they see us talk about healthy co-parenting. They assume that we all agree in the same things, or we just never fight and everything's like perfect and handy dandy. And it's like, that's not the case. We just learn to, the things that are important to discuss, we sit down and discuss until we find a solution. And the things that are not that important, we are not going to stress about it. You know, it's really not that big of a big deal. Every single time people ask, you know, if Megan and Mike agree on everything, it's like, no, but it's how they handle it is what the big factor is. They don't have to see eye to eye. They don't have to be buddy-buddy. They don't have to agree everything. It's just how you handle it. Is it worth fighting, or is it worth where, you know, you can go to your own private house and like bicker about it like secretly to yourselves without having to make it such an impact for the child?
Yep. Picking it, I'm telling you, like holding your tongue. I mean, Mike has definitely come a long way with that. I will say that, like, there's a lot of times where I can physically feel it over the phone where he's just like, and I'm like, but again, I also have that issue.
Yeah.
Which is why him and I butt heads so much. Is I mean, just in everyday life, I mean, I have a really hard time, like, just not speaking my mind. It is hard, and it's something I've worked on over the years, but, you know, just not it's not that big of a deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
And I've seen a lot of people, you know, argue and vent, especially on these stepmom pages. A big thing that a lot of people argue about in co-parenting is like the pickup times and the drop-off times. It's such a big deal. And granted, I know people who have to travel 6 or 7 hours. That's a big deal. That's an issue. But if you're like a few minutes late, or the other person's a few minutes late, like maybe discuss it. You know, afterwards be like, you know, you really can't be doing this, or sit down, have a talk on it. But the way that people handle it, like arguing or being like, you know what, you're 5 minutes late, you can't pick up the child until tomorrow now. It's like, be reasonable with some things. And remember, like, you can be frustrated about the 5 minutes, but if the child is excited to see the parent and the parent is on the way, you might have to suck it up and deal with it, and just maybe send a text like, hey, I really did have plans afterwards. Can we not do that again? Like,
yeah, I mean,
learn to handle it.
I see both sides of that. I mean, if it's a habitual, is it habitual, the word?
Yeah.
Yeah, where they just keep doing it and you've expressed your frustration. I know that in most parenting plans, which it's even in mine, that it says, you know, if you are not on time, you lose your week with that kid. Like, your time.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
That's insane.
That's not respecting the other parent's time.
And I get that, but I've seen people like literally, just some of I wish I had screenshots for some of these. The way that they handle it, I just think,
If you want to, I agree, and I think we're at the point now where, you know, if we're 5 minutes late, it's not that big. Or if it doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
But if it's an every single week thing and there's not an accident, you just decided to wake up late, or you're just not taking it seriously, and you guys aren't in a really good place, I would totally see how it would be frustrating and upset, because it looks like you're not showing respect. And
yes. Definitely for habitual things, yes, because that is someone basically taking advantage of you. But I think the one-time occurrences, I think you have to be reasonable and like the pick your battles things. Like just don't be so harsh about it. And just small things that I've seen people argue about, it's not that big of a deal. Like if Mike would have fought you for that $1.50 Mike's medication, like I would be like, girl, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's really not. And like you said, like there's traffic where, you know, you can't help, and you know, some things just, it's a lot easier and it's a lot better for your heart, mind, and soul just to let it go. It takes so much more energy to be upset and harp on things and let it impact, you know, your mood for the rest of the day and everything because someone's 5 minutes late. Or, you know, they put the kid in the wrong shoes, or, you know, whatever. Like, and
you also have to think about it. Like, if someone's late one time and you let it go, that's fine. But if they're late 3 or 4 times, that kind of builds up your, how's that word?
Tolerance?
Like, no, not tolerance, but like when you sit down, like it's a lot more serious being like, hey, like I gave you, you know, a couple of times that you were late as like a pass and didn't say anything, but like right now it's a big deal, like it needs to stop. Rather than like on the first one, you're like, I've had it, I'm done. Your argument isn't as strong when you're fighting for every single thing, rather than being like, hey, I was, you know, calm and collective and picked my battles on certain things, but I'm not doing this anymore. You build up such a stronger case by choosing to give and take rather than fighting on every single little thing, because then it just looks like, oh, she's always complaining, or it's always a battle with her.
Yep. And that's something that, you know, definitely pick your battles. It'll definitely help you in the long run. Some things just aren't a big deal. I mean, if there are little things, like, I mean, I absolutely agree that you're allowed to have little things that bother you. And if that's one of your little things where it's like, hey, I really hate you being late, I think you're allowed to get upset about it. But you can't be upset about literally everything. And then if they come at you with something that you do, like, hey, you know, I would really appreciate it if you, I don't know, brought him back in the shoes that I sent him over in. Yeah. And you get upset because of that. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, if you're going to be getting upset over little things and then they bring something to you, you got to, like, kind of comply. It's give and take.
Yeah. And arguments take a lot out of everyone. So, like, I think it's just best to leave your argument for something that's worth fighting for. And if it's not worth fighting for, why waste your energy on that? It's just going to be so much more difficult.
You know, and if, like she said, like, if you complain about literally everything and make everything a big deal,
it's not as serious, or at least I wouldn't see it as serious. I'm like, well, you know, they're just complaining about this and this, they're gonna complain about this and this next, rather than like, wow, like they're complaining about one thing that I can notice and see that I've like let it slide, like maybe I should take it seriously.
Yeah, you just look like the problem parent, you know, just complaining about literally everything. Like, take a chill pill. I know sometimes it can be serious, but sometimes, you know, sometimes it's just not all that.
Yeah.
So number 3, we have don't force it. So a lot of people say that they wish they had our relationship. And with our relationship took time and patience. I mean, not really for ours, I guess. But
it took time.
It took time. But I mean, like, once we became friends, and this is like what we get a lot.
Both of us wanting it is the big thing.
It's like people, what they tell us on Instagram and other sites and stuff is they tell us like, hey, I reached out. We're talking, but how do I get to where you are? And it's like, girl, if you guys just started talking, yes, like you and I were instant, but not everyone's going to want to be like 0 to 60. You know, you got to give it time. You got to give it patience. And you can't, if, like you said earlier, like if one person wants to be best friends, but the other person just wants to be on a talking
cordial,
like
just respectable,
you gotta be respected of that. Like, they might not want to be best friends with you, and there's nothing wrong with them not wanting to be best friends with you either. Make that very clear.
Yeah, don't hate them on that too. Like, I would feel bad to be like, wow, you're not willing to co-parent. Some people just don't feel comfortable with it, and that's fine. But I do feel really bad when I see people DM us and they're like, how do I get the bio mom to be friends with me? Or how do I get the stepmom to want to meet up with me? And be like, you can't force anyone to do anything they don't want to do. You can try, you can offer, you can invite, but But at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, you just can't force it, and it doesn't make them a bad person. You kind of just gotta be realistic. Like, as long as they're nice to you and they're kind, you know, that's good enough sometimes. And unfortunately, if you want more, it can't always be that way. But I feel bad when people do reach out and ask us for advice to get there. It's like, it takes two. Unless it's both of you reaching out to us, wanting to work on it. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to convince the other side to be like, let's do this.
Yes. Or the other side of that being, let's say you're dating someone and you just started dating and they have a baby mama or whatever. Like, you have to realize if it's a fresh new relationship, like the bio mom might not be ready to like be all buddy with you.
She doesn't even know if you're going to be around for long.
She doesn't know if you're going to be around long, and you have to have patience and you have to give her time and prove that you're going to be, not prove, but, you know, like show that you're going to be there for a long term. And give her a chance to like warm up and just give it some time and patience.
Yes, and I think time and patience is a lot. I've seen people that are newly dating and want to be where Megan and I are, and it's like, you also have to understand, and they say, you know, bio mom is uncomfortable or anything, like, put yourself in their position and understand it can be uncomfortable. They're, you know, just lost their relationship. They're now having their child possibly 50-50 of the time. Like, there are just so many new things that they're going through, and now to have to deal with a new person, like, just be understanding and just take it slow. Don't get offended. Don't get upset. Like, it's a new scenario for everyone. Like,
yeah, and
bombarding someone is terrifying.
You know, and then on the same thing, if you're the bio mom and excited that your baby daddy is dating somebody, and she might be a little overwhelmed, okay? And if you're coming at her being like, hey, let's be best friends, like, it could be a little weird.
My mom had that. She said she was dating someone who had a kid a long time ago, and the mom was like, I can't wait for you to be a mom to my child too. My mom was like, I'm not ready to be a mom. Like, it scared her. And that could be with a stepmom. Like, you know, it is such a huge jump, and if a bio mom's so ready to be like, yes, another mom to like help me with the child, and they're not ready, like, it's not that they don't like the kid, it's not that, you know, they don't want to be a mom, but it is such a big role to take on, and they just probably have to digest it and just realize, like, holy shit, like, I go from single, being on Tinder, to a mother of a 6-year-old, like, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and again, unfortunately, we're still in the stigma of if the bio mom, you know, is in the baby daddy's life or whatever, it's, oh, she still wants him. So it might come off a little like, oh, I want to be in your life and I want to be, you know, and it's just, you got to give it some time and patience.
Yeah.
I promise, well, I can't promise, but if you go about it the right way and everyone's open-minded, good things will happen with time, but, you know, just, you got to give it some time and be realistic.
Yes.
Also, you know, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it did with us when we finally reached out to each other, but 4 years had passed that we had been in each other's lives before we became friends. So
we knew of each other, we knew the dynamic, and we knew, I think, yeah, it took kind of like seeing us from afar to like slowly get to where we are. And I think that also helped, because I cannot imagine the first year us trying to like do all of this.
There was a lot of hurt between Mike and I that was still left unresolved. There was a lot of forgiving we each had to do to each other, and accepting the apologies that you'll never get from either party. So there was no way. Mike and I couldn't even have a good parenting relationship, not even including who he was dating at the time, which was you. So number 4, it says do it for the children. So yes, co-parent for your children. Everything you do in co-parenting needs to be for the child.
The best interest of the child.
Not for you. And what did we just read online? It said,
I didn't read anything online. You were the one reading something online.
It was a good
quote. I know I had said that you don't have to all have the same parenting styles or see everything eye to eye. You just have to make sure you're putting the child's best interest at hand is the biggest thing, because people are always asking us, do you guys parent the same? Do you guys do this the same? Are their houses the same? And lucky for us, it is pretty much similar, but it doesn't have to be like that with everyone. And just because, you know, family A does one thing a certain way, family B does something, you know, a completely different way, doesn't mean y'all can't co-parent, as long as you guys have the best interest of the child at hand and are respectful of the other people's decisions, you can still have a healthy co-parenting relationship.
Yeah, I think what it was said that, remember, fair doesn't always mean equal.
Yes, fair doesn't always mean equal. I didn't read it, but you did say it out loud.
I
Now I remember.
Yeah, do it for the child. Like I just said, fair doesn't always mean equal. So just put your child first. Like,
yeah.
It's not always going to benefit you, and I know it sucks because sometimes it's hard to see past that. Your children will thank you in the long run. Just do it for the children. I can't say it enough.
Yeah. And when you said disagree in private, nothing has to be
Yes.
fought or argued or saying, you know, I don't like this way, or I do it this way in front of the child. You know, everyone's going to handle their homes their own way, and that's okay. As long as you can control your own home, that's all that matters. You can't control the other house, and you need to learn and accept that. Like, you're going to spend forever trying to do that, and it's just going to give more stress to your life.
Yep, and do not talk bad about the parent in front of your children. Do not, if you are in an argument with your significant partner, your co-parenting partner, do it in private. Do not do it. Do not involve your child in those conversations.
Yep.
Oh my God, your dad made me so mad today. I can't believe your dad. Like, do not do that. Like, they do not need to see anything other than parents who love them.
Yep.
It is none of their business what goes on in y'all's disagreements, period.
They don't need to know.
They will remember everything, and I promise you they will look back as adults and remember these conversations you're having with them and be like, damn. One day they're going to be looking back with adult eyes and see that you're the problem.
Yep.
I promise you that's where my mother and I are at right now. They remember everything.
I say that literally 10 times a day when people say stuff. I'm like, anything that you're going through, anything that you're doing in front of the kids, even if it's difficult now, it's like, remember, they're going to see it as an adult differently. Just do what is best, and that's all that matters. They will see the truth. They will see what will come to light as they get older.
They don't need you to make it your life mission to let them know that their dad is a piece of shit.
Yeah.
They will figure that out on their own, but let their childhood be as filled with as many happy memories as possible. Like, I saw something one day, it was like, something about, like, I was reading a parenting thread, and it was like, when the dad only comes around when he feels like it, what should I do, or something like that. And the way that I feel about that, and a lot of other moms did too, they were like, yes, you absolutely should let the dad come in. Because, one, they'll realize when they get older that their dad wasn't always there and whatever. But those little memories where they do see their dads at birthday parties or, you know, a baseball game every now and then, they're going to see their dad out in the crowd, and they're going to be so happy that he's there. Yeah.
They're not going to put two and two together, being like, oh, he missed the last 2 visits, and now
he's unless you're bringing it up to them, you know, like, oh, your dad's a piece of shit. They're going to be so elated to see their father or mother, whoever. I'm saying father because, you know, it's the opposite of what I am. I'm a mother, so I'm not going to say
the
mother.
The opposite what I am.
I'm saying father because, I mean, I could say mother, but I don't know, it's easier to say father. They will see their other parent out there and be so happy. Let them be happy. Like, let them have those memories, and then when they get older, they'll figure it out. It's not your job to let them know that their other parent is a piece of shit.
Yeah. I mean, you've said it before in our podcast, maybe it was 2 podcasts before, that you said your dad never said anything bad about your mom. Like, it took you realizing it as you got older. Like, no one had to tell you anything. You figured it out yourself, and that's how I think any child would be at the end. Just give them the best life, do everything you need to do for them, bite your tongue, and they'll figure it out.
And you know what? My mom used to talk shit about my dad and my stepmom all the time. My mom, I grew up knowing about, you know, what happened with my dad when we were little and him leaving and blah, blah, blah. Like, I knew that my dad cheated on my mom. I knew everything about, like, how their marriage went down.
You knew this when you were little?
Little.
Oh,
girl.
wow.
My mom told me everything. Like, she was really, like, trying to let me know, like, my dad was a piece of shit. Let me tell you, my dad was good to me the times he was there, and that's what I remember. It doesn't matter how much, I mean, it hurt hearing that, and sometimes it would make me sad and stuff, but my dad was always good to me, you know, and that's what I remember. I never looked at my dad and was like, damn, Dad, you're a piece of shit. Yeah. You know, like, being little. So it just makes, and looking back as an adult now, I'm like, damn, why would my mom involve me in that shit? You know?
And even the thing with that, like, no matter what your dad did or what happened between your dad and your mom, like, none of it literally, I mean, minus the breaking up stuff, like it wasn't affecting you. He didn't do any of that stuff to you. So it's like, for her to say that to make you angry at him, for what? Like that wouldn't even be fair. So, and I mean, now look where you are now. Now your dad's commenting on our shit all the time.
Yep, and I don't talk to my mom. So they'll figure it out on their own. Always be respectful because, again, you want to be respected. I know you do. In order to get respect, you have to be respectful. Friends, yes. I'm trying to teach our son that right now.
Yes.
Yep, disagree in private. I'm trying to make sure I covered all that before we move on.
Number 5.
Yes, co-parenting isn't always 50-50. And what we mean by that is sometimes you're going to have to give a little bit more than you want to.
Yes.
To make things work. It's not always going to be cookie cutter right down the line. You might have to give a little bit more to make things work.
Yes. Even though we have 50-50 custody, everything is not always 50-50. Sometimes we have events that, you know, will make one parent have more time with the child than the other. Sometimes things are going on that we kind of have to change the dynamic in a way to fit whatever is best for the child. And you have to be okay and understanding and like don't always go and be like, well, the parenting plan says 50-50. This has to be 50-50. Everything has to be like this. Like you have to kind of like mold yourself a little bit to fit, I mean, whatever is going on. Be willing
to negotiate a little bit. And again, you know, if you're the one that's giving all the time, I mean, I would communicate that. Communication is obviously a given in making co-parenting, and that is the number one tip that's going without being said on this. But, you know, if you feel like, because I know I've felt like that before, where I was always the one giving and giving and giving back in the day, be like, hey, you know, I came more than 50% on these occasions. Can switch it around and can I have this? You know, don't always be the one giving favors and, you know, let them be upset when they're not giving it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And yeah, and just be willing to say like, hey, you know, I know this is, especially with time, a lot of the thing is with time, like we technically have the 1 week on, 1 week off, but things change so many times. We have plans, you know, Megan does have another child where there's milestones and events that we want to be able to have the kids all together and a part of. You just have to be willing to realize that just because the custody is 50-50 doesn't mean like everything's set in stone. Like you get 7 days, I get 7 days. Like you kind of like have to bend and mold and just be okay with it. Stop counting every single hour or stop counting every single thing.
Yes, you have to be flexible because there are going to be some times where you want to switch up the schedule a little bit. And you can't, I don't think it's fair to ask for the other party to switch the schedule if you're not willing to. You know, like you said, we have Bryce. And if we have Bryce's birthday party who falls on a Thursday and it's on their week, you know, I'm going to want to, Michael's going to want to be at the birthday party. I'm going to want both my kids at the birthday party. So being able to negotiate and, you know, giving a little like, you know, hey, you know, maybe you can have Michael, you know, 2 extra days that week if I could have him on Thursday, or, you know, hey, I'll pick him up from your house, take him to the party, and I'll bring him back. So, you know, you don't have to drive anywhere. You know, like negotiating and working with the other house.
Yeah.
And you can't just ask for things all the time. You have to be willing to give. Like, there's a lot of times where, you know, I'll ask for something and I'll be like, hey, you know, you can keep Michael an extra couple days, or, oh, you know, I'll take Michael to school all next week, or, you know, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And just being understanding and not so, I feel like people get very, I don't know what the term for it is. Like you said with the birthday party, like Michael wants to be a part of Bryce's birthday party. And I see so many other parents that are like, well, if you're going to have this day, I'm going to need a day back. Like, it's like, you don't have to hold on to everything to the T. Like, you know, if we get invited, even though it's still technically our day, like Michael still gets to see his brother. Like those type of commitments to make things flexible, I think people should be willing to do more often. A big one that I've seen is like weddings. When weddings aren't planned on like the days that you have custody of the child, it's like, that's where you should be flexible. If it's an important milestone, it's an important event, like just don't be so like holding on to these days. Like, I get everyone wants to spend as much time as the child, spend as much time with the child, but like be so understanding. Be like, yeah, go have fun, come back. You know, you can even do the same day where you pick up the child the same day. Just like, don't be so, I don't know, nitpicky, I guess. It stresses me out because then you're like stressed out about like, especially with the switching of the days, like, what day can I give? What day can I get? Like, it makes everyone else stressed out, and you're having to look at the calendar. Like, just understand if it's a one-off. Be reasonable.
Yep, I agree. But I will say, at least what I tried to do is if we do have something planned, like when we went to Georgia, like I try to plan it on a weekend that is my week, so no one's inconvenienced. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
As much as I can, like if we did something for Bryce's birthday, it would probably be on a week. Well, one, Travis has those weekends off too. Mm-hmm. But I would try to plan everything that I can to not inconvenience the other house and be like, hey, well, I planned Bryce's birthday party. Like, it's like, really? You planned it on the week that you don't have him?
Some people mess up the days. I've noticed that. Even my own parents have messed up the days, and they're like, damn, I just planned this whole entire event. Like, my sister's Sweet 16 that was supposed to be planned on my stepmom's day was not planned for some reason. Like, that's the part that they were scared, and they're like, what do you do? And it's like, just, like, don't be afraid to talk it over and, think, like, especially her birthday was her birthday. So it's like, be reasonable and just switch the days, and he, just gave the day or whatever.
Yeah. Don't make it a habit.
No, don't make it a habit, because schedules are very difficult.
Yes. Don't make it a habit, be respectful, and just, like you said, be a little giving, and
treat the parent the way you would want to be treated, I think is a really big thing.
Yeah, and then also, there's been times where, Mike has asked for a day and I can't do it. And instead of you have to respect the other parent's time with the kids also.
Yeah.
Like, don't get upset because you're asking for time on their week and getting upset with them because they're not working with you.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to realize, you can't do it, and that's fine. But if you can, don't be weird about it. Just be nice, guys. I promise it makes things easier. And then we have number 6, which I think is really good for people who can't communicate well. And I don't just do this in my life with Mike. I do this in my life with everybody. If it's something that I know I'm going to forget, or it's something important, or a conversation we had that I need to make sure that, I have documentation that we had the conversation, I document everything.
Yes.
We have a group chat going on, and something like as simple as spring break. Like, I haven't had Michael for spring break in 2 years, which just shows you how well we keep track of all this stuff. I didn't notice it until this year because, we had COVID, and then they had it, it just falls on the wrong week. And I just realized oh shit, we're supposed to be alternating spring break.
Yeah.
So I put it in our group chat hey, this, and this, spring break. I would like to figure out how we can move things around so I can have Michael for spring break this year.
Yeah.
So I have it down. So hey, I brought it up on this date. Mike still hasn't called me about it, which I need to call him maybe tonight. Just little things like that, things like with school. I wrote down hey, I texted him, we talked about the school, because he forgets a lot of stuff. We're always busy. I forget a lot of stuff. Travis has a list of things that, he says, we just started a list because he swears that I don't talk to him about things. And I'm like, I swear to God I do. So we have a list. It just makes things a lot easier. Now, I will say this is not to be throwing things in people's faces. That's not what I'm saying.
Just to keep track of things.
It's to keep track of things and organize, and to just be hey, we did talk about this. Or this is when I brought this up. I'm still waiting on an answer. You said you'd call me. You haven't called me yet. Let's find time to call each other. And just to, be more organized. I would say that's a really good tip on that.
Even with the calendar, when we were discussing the kids' school days, because we did it in the beginning of the year, we wrote down every single day that they had off so we would know. And then that one day that we were it's not on the calendar, so we weren't sure. It helped us to realize, it wasn't documented, so we didn't think it was legit. And then we called, or you called, and it wasn't, because we're it's not written down, so this doesn't mean he has a day off. And
yep.
Girl, I wouldn't have known those other 2 days were off if we didn't write them down, because I forgot about them.
I will say we did just have an app reach out to us to talk about, and I actually did a TikTok on it. It's called the Onward app, which I think is great for people in this situation. You can upload your, and they're not telling us to talk about this. I literally just fell in love with the app. It's free. It's called the Onward app. You can download it, and then your co-partner can download it, and you can upload receipts. It'll let you know when things are paid. It hooks up to your Zelle and your PayPal. If they add something that they need you to go halves on, you know, it gives you a notification, tells you, like, it's great for keeping track of child expenses. Helps a lot of people. You can use it for yourself to keep track of your receipts and everything, if that's what you guys need to do.
Super helpful to be organized when you're taking care of a child in two very separate homes.
Yes.
To kind of like keep track of it when you guys have two different things that you're dealing with. So I think that's nice to have it all together in one spot.
Yeah. And to show, like, hey, you know, I spent this much in school supplies. You have the receipt, you know, reimburse me, or, you know, whatever it may be. So that is it for our tips. We obviously have a lot more, but we're trying to keep this short and sweet and to the point.
Yes. And a lot of them fall into kind of similar things with just like maybe small changes and stuff like that. I think the biggest key is just realizing you're not always going to get your way, and that's okay. Realizing you have to have patience and kindness. I think a lot of people argue with each other and make co-parenting a lot harder because they're not, how do I say, they're just holding on to the things that they shouldn't hold on to.
I think they use more of their emotions towards each other, and
yes.
they lose sight of why you should be co-parenting, and it's for the kids. Like, it's not about you and your personal whatever, like, it's for the kid. Keep that in mind. Like, it's not about you, it's not about your ex, it's not about you getting back at them because you're upset because they called you a bitch. It's about the kid.
Like, you're already over and done with, so what's the point of continuing to argue and fight? Like, the relationship ended because y'all didn't get along, so that's fine. Now it's time for you to like wash your hands from that and just move on to make sure the child's like needs are all met and they're living the best possible life. Don't keep, you know, reopening the divorce or reopening the fact like, this is why we don't work. Like, we already know.
We already know you don't. So that's where we're gonna end it today. Again, if you guys are not following us on all socials, please do. We post a lot on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok,
YouTube, Amazon Live. All of our links can be found under momsoftampa.com if you guys are trying to find something. Our P.O. box is also there as well for those who are always asking as well.
Yes. And if you have any podcast ideas or things you want to hear us talk about, it doesn't have to be co-parenting related. It can be about anything. You can either comment below if you're watching us on YouTube or just send us a message on Instagram.
Yeah, let us know. We'd love to hear ideas. We're hoping to get some guests on the podcast soon.
We have someone really exciting in the works.
Yes. So I'm excited. If you guys have someone that you're dying to see, talk with us on the podcast. Let us know. We'd love to know who it is.
All right. We'll catch you in episode 6.
Yes. Bye.